Let's do this. So, I'm not sure how Jeff turned 3 minutes and 44 seconds into 37. I don't have that much to say about this. He must have been, like, going frame by frame or some shit. I have no idea. But, panic when I was plugging in this keyboard so I could press the spacebar to, do that. So... Stormgate. Frost Giant. A lot of Blizzard alumni involved in making this game, and we haven't really seen a lot of it beyond some of the art, and then that one like drive-by fruiting that they showed off many moons ago. And so this is the real first things in motion fighting each other that we would have seen since they started development. Of course, you could see it's a pre-alpha playtest, not final, being on display there in more than 3% of the screen in that top left. So I'll watch this. Maybe I'll stop in a couple of places. But yeah, let's see what we're dealing with here. So, right off the rip, we got a couple of different things that they seem to be showing or trying to show off here on the left-hand side. That main big battle, it looks like we've got a mixture of stuff. It looks like some sort of, if you were to make a comparison to StarCraft, some sort of like a bigger mech versus a more bio-y situation on blue. And then we also see that they are clearly placing high ground advantages, as one would expect them to put in the game. Some sort of high ground advantage, whether it's just vision or otherwise. That's that top right piece. And then it also seems like we have these grassy areas and whatnot that are likely going to obfuscate units and whatnot. So all standard stuff that if you were making a real-time strategy game in the year of our Lord 2023, or in the instance of this game releasing in 2024, more than like, that you would expect to see in said game. You can also see that he's, this person on right is like like kind of basically with what ostensibly would, is Marines, stutter stepping what more or less looks like Zerglings, in that bottom right. It does give a hint right away that it is a slower game than StarCraft. It is, its current iteration, much slower than StarCraft, closer to game speed of perhaps a Warcraft 3. We see some static defenses as well up there in the top right that we got to check out there.
Hi guys.
And now the most important part. I'm so sorry I paused here, TLO. That's Dario, my bad, bro. I'm doing you dirty right now, but this camera angle's not doing you much justice either. Great to see TLO getting involved.
This is TLO. Obviously played RTS my entire life, so it's been a real privilege for me to be one of the first people to try out Stormgate. Really stoked about this match against Kevin. Think I'm gonna do some light harass in the early game and then just try to overwhelm him with him.
So we're getting a canned versus here where this was just played out, and they are essentially just using post recordings to explain what is going on is what happens in this video. Again, pre-alpha setup, but you can already see the Blizzard, StarCraft, Warcraft influence in the user interface. I would say one of the things that struck me right away watching this is I feel like I'm way too tight to the ground. I feel like I'm getting way too much building in my face. I feel like I'm not seeing enough of things. I feel like I almost need to be pulling back further. I'm getting claustrophobic. Was one of the first things I noticed when I was watching the video.
Massive amount of macro.
You can also see, I mean, we're collecting resources, of course. We got what would be the command center here. You can see the worker count is displayed as they learned from StarCraft, was a good thing to have. You know, see 12 workers is the theoretical max to max out the collection of that resource. We have another resource on the left here that's 0 for 4. So it really looks like it's almost identical in terms of what you would expect for minerals to gas. Not exactly, because you'd have typically, I guess, 6 in a maxed out gas situation, depending if there are multiple, but very similar. You see there's already a unit in here trolling around. Looks like it's more of a scouting situation.
Hi,
He's
my
getting
name is Kevin Monkdong, and I work on gameplay and balance on Stormgate. Today, I'll be trying
cut off at the
expansion
pass.
build, and then I'll try to tech to higher tier units to defend whatever TLO throws at me.
So we're doing, you know, this is like a one's countering the other more or less, but yeah, all of this verbiage is very much a what you would expect. It's the thing. The dog is literally called Scout. It's an acronym. Scout is dead. So you can see TLO is already getting an early attack in with slightly higher tiered units, while Kevin here is on the back foot as he's expanded first. He's gonna build, this is essentially static defense. This is more or less like a cannon that he's building right now with what appears to be multiple workers. So similar to, I guess, what you could do with Terran with SCVs, where you could speed up the production of a building if you dedicated more SCVs to it. Do you think the camera so close to the building was to not show much of the map for the video? No, I actually just think this is what it looks like right now. That's more of a stylistic choice to limit how much, you know, they're seeing versus Fog of War. You know, camera tightness in a game like this for a player versus a observer is more or less just as a balance thing than anything else. So he's losing a lot of workers. So you can see now we've got that static defense has been finished. Now we've got some higher tier enemies, or not enemies, higher tier units that Kevin's managed to produce out of his, I guess you must well call them factories here.
He did a lot of worker damage there, so I'm at a pretty bad economic disadvantage. I'm gonna have to try some really sneaky tactics, maybe getting an upgrade TLO isn't familiar with, perhaps maybe even luckily creepjacking him.
So, what's weird about this video is that the production is absolutely catastrophically fucking horrible. You can see what they were trying to go for. It doesn't play it doesn't play. This keyboard needs to be thrown out soon. It's starting to get weird. It's just not well produced. It doesn't help make the game look any better. There's no opening dialogue about really, not enough opening dialogue to set people up. It's just a very, very odd choice to make this be the first real showing. So we're dropping some units off. They've got a charge ability to catch up. They can stun. See, there's some micro from TLO here where he's picking up and dropping units as they get attacked to have Kevin's units change and cycle just like you would in a Terran situation with a dropship. You're just cycling stuff to or any race really, but predominantly Terran, and I guess Protoss to a degree. We see a long-range attack unit back here, set up kind of like a siege tank.
Looking forward to hopefully dealing the finishing blow against Kevin here. I'll attack again from the right side through the light trees, but this time we'll bring in a larger force from the left side as well. And I think I'll be able to out-micro him here. He has a more static mech army, I believe, and my bio unit should be able to touch all the tech shots, get in there.
And whatever microphone situation, whatever they had on TLO there was falling apart at the fucking seams. You can't even really understand them.
And have a pretty smooth path of attack here.
That's a pincer. That's a GG. And then that's it. That's what they showed. I mean, other than an interesting note in that we don't really know how much of that may or may not have been edited for time or whatnot. We don't know, like, what is the, I'm not following the development so closely that this is kind of what I'm going with. So another interesting fact is, you know, what, I'm not seeing an in-game timer. We saw like a combination of this being at the bottom and then not. I'm not seeing an in-game timer, so I don't know if this was like edited for time or what. But the question is, what is the average time per game that they're shooting for? Is 5 minutes like really what they're going for? Is it less than 5 minutes? You know, what is it that they're actually trying to target as an average time in these matches? You can clearly see a lot of Blizzard influence in here, and it makes sense because that's who's basically making the game, right? It's very pre-alpha. And that's probably my biggest commentary on this, is that it's extraordinarily pre-alpha. This video production was pre-alpha. For me, I have a lot of faith in this team. I think you'd be insane not to have a lot of faith in this team. The issue for me is I think they probably should have let this bake in the oven a little bit longer and maybe spent some more time working on the production of this video or whatever video they would have put together so that their first real playtest showing was a lot stronger than this. This kind of video is probably only going to get the most diehard, dedicated, faithful, and hopeful remotely excited just by virtue of seeing the game being played in any capacity. I think for a lot of other people, when you're showing your hand this early, it can become problematic because even though it says pre-alpha playtest, people don't even really associate what the fuck, you know, what pre-alpha really truly means or anything of that nature. They just, you know, they have no concept of it. So it's a very dangerous thing to be throwing stuff out. So when you show stuff off, you really need to be careful. Because it's hard to regain, like, let's say, social media positivity traction after you've already tanked it. And I don't think this is what I would have if I was their social media manager or whatever, trying to come up with how we were going to show this game off. I wouldn't have let this go out the door. In a million years. I would have fought to keep this off the fucking internet. Because this isn't showing the game in its best light right now. It doesn't need to be in like all the way to beta status, but we really, really need to make sure that what gets out there has a lot of context given to it in the video, and it's produced well to show the game to the best of its ability, while also showing the real gameplay and just being upfront. But basically just having a single match like this, that may or may not be cut up for time, slapped together, and then in post, having TLO and Kevin on like talking head green screens, kind of just say what their strategy was in the match, talk nothing about units, nothing about anything, and just show this shit in a 3-minute video was a bad idea. It's a bad idea. Because like any game, basically any game in pre-alpha, it looks like a game in pre-alpha. It looks bad. First impressions are so important, right? There's a reason why Blizzard traditionally almost never showed anything until they had their shit polished up to a shine. That's why. Now I understand that for Frost Giant, as a very small, basically indie developer size, you don't necessarily always have the luxury of that of a larger developer and publisher in terms of not showing your stuff off as frequently, especially if you're doing forms of multiple rounds of funding from investors or crowdfunding from hopeful players and fans. You gotta get something out. But all the better, like all the more reason for you to make sure that whatever you're putting out there is just top quality for whatever you have at that time. But this video wasn't it. Not even a little bit. All this video managed to do for me and for probably a fair amount of people is to remind everyone that this game is still very early on. It's relying a lot on StarCraft while kind of just throwing it in the more visual and speed profile of Warcraft. And then just played it out. Yeah, Trouser, exactly. So when I say context and whatnot would have been better, like you need to have it. You know, you just putting pre-alpha playtest in the top left, not final, is not really going to. You would hope that's gonna have people understand. It's just not going to. You need to have people sit down and be like, this is what we're gonna see today. Show the unit on the screen. Talk a little bit about it. What is this unit's? But what is this unit's specialty? When do you get it? You got to talk through all that. This 3-minute video, just by adding that kind of commentary up at the front before jumping in, could have made this a nice 15-20-minute video, a little bit of discussion with the developers, a little bit of groundwork laid for the person at home. This is extremely early on, pre-alpha, but we have a build where we can actually get in and play some games to start getting some testing done. And we're thrilled to have TLO, longtime, content creator and player, professional, and friend to much of the Blizzard community leading up to this. We're thrilled to have him here. And he and Kevin got together to have a little friendly match to try and show you guys a couple different styles, and so that you can see some of these units in action now that you know what they do. And then dump into something, and then dump into something like this, and just try to produce it a bit better, make the production quality a little higher, because they like talk this up and everything ahead of time. Here comes the gameplay. Here comes the gameplay. Here comes the gameplay. Excited to show you. And then they drop a video that, I'm not even joking, I'm not trying to be mean. They're dropping a video that looks like the first rough draft that Mark would send to me before actually doing any major changes. And nothing Mark has ever sent me, even in the roughest of drafts, is this poor. And we are not out here trying to sell a fucking RTS in 2023, 2024. Like that is a tough sell. Like, I'll ask you guys, so when you see this video, right? I'll play it again from the beginning. And in chat, if you're here, I'd love to know what your thoughts are. Type your thoughts out as you're watching it. I'd love to know what you guys think about this.
Hi guys, this is TLO. Obviously played RTS my entire life, so it's been a real privilege for me to be one of the first people to try out Stormgate. Really stoked about this match against Kevin. Think I'm gonna do some light harass in the early game and then just try to overwhelm him with a massive amount of macro.
Hi, my name is Kevin Monkdong, and I work on gameplay and balance on Stormgate. Today, I'll be trying a fast expansion build, and then I'll try to tech to higher tier units to defend whatever TLO throws at me. He did a lot of worker damage there, so I'm at a pretty bad economic disadvantage. I'm gonna have to try some really sneaky tactics, maybe getting an upgrade TLO isn't familiar with, perhaps maybe even luckily creepjacking it.
Looking forward to hopefully dealing the finishing blow against Kevin here. I'll attack again from the right side through the light trees, but this time we'll bring in a larger force from the left side as well. And I think I'll be able to out-micro him here. He has a more static mech army, I believe, and my bio unit should be able to touch all the tech shots, get in there, and have a pretty smooth path of tech here.
So, like, something I don't know if you guys caught. Back here, he's talking about this. Kevin mentioned something here.
Sneaky tactics, maybe getting an upgrade TLO isn't familiar with, perhaps maybe even luckily creepjacking it.
He says creep something. And because I'm not just reading every dev blog this fucking game has been putting out up to this point, as somebody just walking into this, my assumption, only because I have knowledge of Warcraft, is that perhaps there is a creep style of play where there are encampments around these maps for you to make use of to clear camps out to gain resources or other advantages that we just don't know about. We don't see any of it in the video. He just says it in passing. We don't have a fucking clue. All we see is like, so we don't know, we don't really find out anything about, you know, they don't say, oh, well, we give you, you know, do they give them the scout dogs from the jump? so you don't even have to craft them or create them. They're just there, so that you're not using you're not using a worker instead. Is that a design choice so that both sides have a scout to use right out of the gate? You know, they don't talk about the creep thing. I saw somebody asking similar questions about this on their Twitter, and or possibly even on one of their videos, and they're talking about hero units. Apparently in 1v1 there are no hero units, but in 2v2 and I guess 3v3 they have hero units like Warcraft. Like we don't know. We don't know really anything. So I'm left assuming that I'm so sorry, Dario. Jesus. I'm left assuming that that many of these questions must be answered in some like dev blog or documentation that they tossed out at some point in development, and I've just not seen it. But if their goal is to reach beyond the niche community that this is already for, and like, you know, the people that know about Frost Giant, where they came from, what their pedigree is, what kind of game they're making, all this, they should probably take the communication part a bit more seriously with releasing this kind of stuff. So in the future, it would be nice to see them do that. But right now, I agree. I could have gleaned about as much from this video as if I just had a series of screenshots. Like this could be a screenshot. That's a screenshot. That's a screenshot. Screenshot. Oh. Early art and lighting looks a lot like Red Alert 3. Yeah, I could see that. I could see that. If I didn't have StarCraft 2 for context, I would have no idea what is going on. I would be turned off from this game completely otherwise. Yeah, I can see that. I would have liked to hear how a scout unit would be better to use than sending out a worker immediately. Do they move faster? Do they see more, etc.? Yeah, one could assume, but you know, it'd be nice not to have to assume, for sure. This is webcam video. Oh yeah, they were definitely doing. I'm not gonna blast them for not using 4K cameras on that shit, but you know, it's like a death by 1,000 cuts in production. It's nice seeing the unit combat, but without knowing some of the info on the different units seen, it's kind of hard to understand what's going on. Yeah, I agree. I get as much information from this as a screenshot. Yeah, absolutely. Like I said, I agree. I've read a few of the blog emails they send out, and I know as much as you from the video. I don't think a lot of stuff has been explained. Okay. So if that's the case, then they're really just dropping the ball on that front. Pretty bad. And they need to hire somebody to help them figure that out as soon as humanly possible. This is not doing anything for almost anyone. And if it's not really doing anything for even the people that have read some of the dev blogs being sent out via email that they're subscribed to, that's pretty tough. That's pretty tough. Yeah. But if I, you know, ignoring the fact that this tells me absolutely nothing, I would say right out of the gate, well, first of all, I like that there's the food counter is a loaf of bread. That's wonderful. So I would say that for me, this feels really close to the ground. Warcraft did too. I haven't played Warcraft in a long time, but I don't recall it feeling this claustrophobic. I do recall it feeling more claustrophobic than StarCraft. Perhaps some of how they do the UI that might help reduce how claustrophobic it feels. Does anyone else get that sense? Like, does anyone else, like, if I just, like, you know, does anyone else feel, just looking at this, that they're too close to the ground? Oh, did Jeff say the same thing? I haven't watched the video he posted yet. This legitimately feels similar if you were casting StarCraft to, you know, the view that you can get when you scroll all the way, like almost all the way in. It's kind of what it looks like. Holy Batman, Mr. Wayne, YouTube live party. Hey, what up, Brian? I don't want to defend it, but it could be numerous things, from the size of the map to the fact that they maybe want to focus on the human stuff this way. They aren't communicating well, like you say. Yeah. I feel like every video we've seen, this, even though it's scant video, has also been about this high off the ground. It's all of this shit is subject to dramatic change, and so, you know, you can only, everything is a grain of salt when you're talking about pre-alpha, but yeah. Yeah, but this is the reality of the situation. Like, when you're doing pre-alpha and you put out a video like this and there's absolutely zero explanation, what happens? Everyone's left to fill in the blanks themselves. You're not doing it in dev blogs, you're not doing it in email send out, you're not doing it in your hyped up gameplay segment. You're just everyone's left to fill in the blanks, right? That's the dangerous game of you know, communicating like this during your game development. You have to be wary of that pitfall. Because, yeah, this just looks so zoomed in. Some of it is the buildings are really fucking huge, too. Like, I want to say what we're looking at the right-hand side are the equivalent of, to supply depots. Also, are we looking at, like, a mirror matchup here? I can't, the buildings don't look identical, but the unit compositions look similar enough that I can't quite say definitively. Supposed to be a mirror matchup? Okay. So, I mean, we're really stretching the limits of you know, this being a worthwhile video to be doing. You're showing one race in 3 minutes with 2 people with no explanation, no lead up, no elaboration on any of the things that you're seeing, no real closing statement, just like, the more I watch this and the more I talk about it, the worse it gets. And again, I need to reiterate, truly, on the 0% chance anyone from the team ever sees this reaction, I gotta reiterate, I really do have an enormous amount of faith in these guys and girls to put this together. I just think that this is a bad way of communicating and showing this game off in its current state. I think this just wasn't a good idea. It needed more time. The video needed more time in the oven. The game needed more time in the oven, and the thought process behind, you know, how do we want to communicate where this game is at this part of production? Where are we going? Where did we come from? What are we going to see? You know, all of these, like, so many questions, like, all questions, zero answers, except to say that, like, the takeaway for most people just watching this is that they're probably going to be lost. And if they have a history with Blizzard, they'll say this looks like StarCraft 2 with Warcraft 3 pacing and visuals. Jeff has no ties to Frost Giant. No, he'll likely be part of any playtesting and stuff in the future to some degree, but it's not like he's got like crazy inroads. Not that I'm aware of, anyway. I mean, he'll have possibly some avenues to make some feedback, but I don't know if it's necessarily like some sort of direct line of contact. And even if that was the case, I mean, you know. But yeah, very interesting. I'm kind of interested in what Mr. Black said. This is a very weird thing to do, reacting to my own YouTube partner and best friend reacting. It's right there. It's the first one. Look at that. The first one. Fantastic. So I haven't seen this yet. I saw that he posted it. I have not seen him do this. So reaction on my own YouTube channel. This is the most peak 2023 style. I am reacting to a video of my YouTube partner on my own channel, reacting to a video that I just reacted to, and now I'm reacting to his video of that same video on my own YouTube channel, while also he is on our YouTube channel. There's a lot of layers to this. There's a lot going on here. By the way, if you haven't already, subscribe to this channel, hit the bell icon, because I will be doing more streaming here as time goes on than on Twitch. If you want to watch me, for example, play Final Fantasy 16, that's an awfully good idea. You're going to want to be here for that. I'm going to be doing my best to crank that bad boy out at 1440p on this, make it look real nice and sexy for you. You can inspect all of the non-existent hair on my head at the same time. Let's see what Mr. Black says. This is probably going to be quiet because Jeff's audio output on his computer is just crazy quiet for some reason, but let's see.
First and foremost, big thank
Very
you
quiet.
to everybody that has been supporting our comeback into StarCraft content over the last month and a half or so. We do appreciate it, and we do plan to turn all of our favorite
you think Final Fantasy 16 will have Cup Noodle? I fucking hope not.
Stormgate content as well. So, you know, when cheese fails, Nova Wars says,
I hope not.
Normal last normal games, all that stuff we plan to do with Stormgate, and then
that's
sure
a really good, yeah, Will. It looks like a video they could have just put up to like
Stormgate as well.
Backers somewhere.
Now, the reason why I'm making this video is because number one, we're gonna have content.
The demo slaps. I've heard.
I want to show you guys,
which is great news.
Gameplay footage and give you guys my honest opinion on what we are seeing. Some of it I really, really love. Some of it I'm skeptical of, and some of it I'm not a big fan of. So you're gonna get a wide variety of opinions here. And
poor Jeff with his other microphone, like mic cradle breaking.
Once before, but
he's got that big ass screen in his face. They use this for like voiceover work. It just covers his whole face.
So that I'm not rambling so much. So
make this shorter. You're not rambling so much, my man. You are out here for 37 minutes on a 4-minute video.
What we're gonna do here is we're gonna watch the 3-minute.
What was the long form?
Minimal, interruption, so that you guys can really get a feel for it. and then we will watch it again, but I will be pausing and talking about specific things, beloved games that we my entire team out there, and a bot can do it.
Yes. Okay.
So this is a mirror matchup we're seeing here. Siege tank.
Oh, I'm sure we're going to talk about it on Tech the Alpha. That's the funny part, is it will be on the podcast, I'm sure. Long form was shorter.
Some micro. We'll talk about that.
The director's cut.
Hi guys, this is TLO.
The legend.
Obviously played RTS my entire life, so it's been a real privilege for me to be one of the first people to try out Stormgate. Really stoked about this match against Kevin. Think I'm gonna do some light harass in the early game and then just try to overwhelm him with a massive amount of macro.
So what I like here is these structures are built almost like a 3D
Hi, my
printer.
name is Kevin Monkdong, and I work on gameplay and balance on Stormgate. Today, I'll be trying a fast expansion build, and then I'll try to tech to higher tier units to defend whatever TLO throws at me.
So this is definitely edited for time, so I'd love to know what the actual full, match time was.
He did a lot of worker damage there, so I'm at a pretty bad economic disadvantage. I'm gonna have to try some really sneaky tactics, maybe getting an upgrade TLO isn't familiar with, perhaps maybe even luckily creepjacking him.
He's got like a drop ship. So just so you guys know, yes, that is a chicken, but it's not actually a chicken. It is just sort of a placeholder. The design, I guess, for this specific unit is not completed. So they're not actually, they are fighting chickens, but it's not actually supposed to be a chicken.
Let's be honest. They should keep it a chicken.
Just so you know, pre-alpha.
Oh, did they, Matt? Did they explain this a bit better on the PC game show? Jeff was saying that they were doing too much talking though, or some shit. I didn't watch the PC gaming show.
Looking forward to hopefully dealing the finishing blow against Kevin here. I'll attack again from the right side through the light trees, but this time we'll bring in a larger force from the left side as well. And I think I'll be able to out-micro him here. He has a more static mech army, I believe, and my bio unit should be able to touch all the tech shots, get in there, and have a pretty smooth path of tech here.
I mean, you're not wrong, Mark, because I only had until 9 o'clock anyway. I didn't want to switch platforms a third time today. What up, Jubinator?
GG.
How you doing, brother?
There it is, a Stormgate, and in the description below, I will have all of the links here, so you can go to playstormgate.com and sign up for the pre-alpha if you guys are interested in playing the game early. And also, I will post.
Very StarCraft looking. Well, the whole team is like ex-Blizzard people, so you're gonna get it's StarCraft meets Warcraft.
On the wish list, it definitely
is what it
out,
screams.
Frost Giant. Okay, so. I didn't really speak too much during that because I just wanted you guys to get a feel for the game. I'll be honest, I watched this presentation on the PC. There was like it was like a reveal show. I forget the name of it, but there was a PC show where they They had Day 9
Politically
there,
correct.
the godfather of RTS, really, or at least he's the godfather to me. And it was nice to have him there. But I will say that I thought the presentation was lackluster and weak.
It's a roaster
not
here too,
because of
Jube.
the gameplay footage. but
It
because
was
so much talking going
27 or
on,
28 without humidity
Day 9 was
today.
asking some really basic
Mom was out doing some yard
questions.
work and almost caught heat stroke.
You just couldn't really hear the music. You couldn't really hear the
It was,
units and the feel of the game, which just
Very
sound
warm.
design is so
And we went
important
from
for these
like
types of
not very
games.
warm to
I
like
just
jumped
didn't
all the
really
way up to
feel
that
it,
temperature.
and
This is
I
very
didn't
hot. This room
dislike
is
it, but
roasting
I felt
right
it was
now.
a little underwhelming. When I watched this video here on YouTube, it really kind of brought everything together and got me a significantly more excited than the what we saw a little bit, what I saw at the PC show. So let's get into this. First and foremost, let's talk about some of the things at face value here. This game looks way more like a Warcraft Reforged or a Warcraft 3 Frozen Throne clone than it does StarCraft. Everything from the palette, which is, in my opinion, needs some work. I think maybe it's just the terrain. And
I would say the reason I didn't talk about the visuals a lot is because the thing that is likely to change the most is everything visual. But from a palette perspective, I'm not in disagreement. This is like an even more lighthearted Warcraft 3. You know what this palette is closer to? Overwatch. This is like this is really fucking weird. It really is like a hybrid of the three. This is like the units evoke StarCraft, the buildings evoke StarCraft, the visuals in general evoke Warcraft 3 from a more generalist perspective. The pacing, Warcraft 3. The palette is Overwatch.
and the units, everything kind of looks a little muddy, or there's just not an insane amount of detail. Once again, it's pre-alpha, and I am sure it is going to change over the coming year. Because like I said earlier, StarCraft had a significant different look. I mean, even what the units were doing, and some units got axed completely. That'll be the same thing here for Stormgate. But I will say I'm a little bit let down from an artistic design on where they're going from what I'm seeing. I think it looks a little bit too cartoony, and I don't want to say childlike, but you know, if you were to see that chicken and I didn't pause the video and I said, you know, that chicken's not actually part of the game, you might have actually thought that, oh, you know, they're fighting like a chicken creep or something along those lines. And I think the palette that they're using, especially when we start looking at sort of bigger battles here, it's hard to distinguish the different units. Everything kind of looks similar. I know that it's a mirror matchup, so that definitely doesn't help. But I do find that there needs to be some more detail work, and I'm sure we're going to get that. I'm just going by what they are showing us so far. The other thing is that I wanted to talk about very quickly is the console down here. So this UI, I find slightly distractive. I would prefer to see this whole console stretch across the entire bottom of the screen. I'm not sure why they left this gap down here and this gap down here. I don't think it really adds any real value from a playing standpoint. I would just prefer to see it go right across, have your mini map down here in the bottom right like we're used to, have this part of the console over here. Of course, you've got your portrait. Everything else seems fine. I just find that this stuff here on the side looks bulky and distracting. I think if they keep it this way, I think you just remove this bulk here and this bulk here, which gives you a little bit more vision, and just keeps things cleaner. And there's not as much of a distraction, because I already find that the game, I don't know if it's the way the structures are and how sort of high up they come off the ground or whatnot, but it feels like my bird's eye view needs to be like 20% higher. And I don't know if there is a way in the game via a hotkey, maybe it's your middle mouse scroll, that you can zoom out, zoom down, so that you can have a little bit bigger field of view. I just find that this console it's too in my face. This just needs to be sort of in the background and something that I go and look down at specifically for my minimap. You've got your timer down here, which is fine. You've got your minerals and your gas. I don't know what these are called, so for now, I'm just going to call them minerals and gas. And then, of course, you've got your food. And I do love the little nod they have there of the loaf of bread for the food, which is, your supply count. We used to call it back in the day your food. As you can see up here, your workers, you've got 8 out of 12. And then I'm assuming this is your gas. And it looks like you can put up to 4 workers at a time on the gas. So overall, from an artistic...
As far as the UI is concerned, UI in any RTS is a difficult balance of being able to give you salient information without obstructing so much of the screen, and finding a balance between how much information you're actually being provided and how much screen real estate it takes up. And so I agree with Jeff, and I like a lot of this. It's also a bit of a like stylistic thing. Like you don't want it to just be boxes, to be like just completely devoid of any styling, because then it's just going to look way too plain. It's a really difficult thing to balance, I would imagine, in terms of trying to find what that happy medium is. But this does seem a little bulky. I think it seems even bulkier when you take into consideration how close you feel to the ground. I think those two in concert are very challenging visually. And so, yeah, I don't... But on the other hand, you don't want... You also arguably don't want anything at the top of the screen, and so at least they're getting away from that. They're definitely keeping everything at the bottom of the screen. Like, somebody might say you could split some of this information into different areas of the screen, but you don't want to interrupt where the player is trying to play with the mouse at the time. So yeah, I don't know what the ultimate solution is, but I'm sure that the UI is going to go through several iterations. It's also possible, in general, that for many people, you could put like the numbers, like the majority of the information people give a shit about, in terms of being in the UI at any given time, is the minimap, the game timer, and your resources and food. I think that there's something to be said about moving the game time, resources, food in a small piece of UI that can be moved around the screen by the player at will to wherever they feel comfortable having it. And the same with the minimap. Where do they want the minimap to be? And then have everything else just not even be on the fucking screen, if they want it to be that way. Like a pro mode, if you will. Like, when you already know everything, you don't need to be reminded what are the hotkeys. Does anyone give a shit about how much health the command post has without just clicking on the command post and seeing the health bar? You can even put the numbers on there, or you hold, there's usually a button you can hold and you can see those, those kind of numbers. There's a lot of ways I would rather have this screen be completely minimized to open up as much of that screen as possible. And I think a good solution is to really ask the question, what is the information that the majority of players really want to see on screen at any given time? And then how many of those can just be reduced to elements that can be moved by the player into zones that they prefer, and have the rest be something that can be hid or hidden, and perhaps even hotkeyed to bring it in and out, kind of similar to the UIs that observers would have.
Standpoint, I will say I do prefer the artistic standpoint of, say, a StarCraft or even Warcraft. But once again, Warcraft 3 is a completed game. This is pre-alpha, and I am sure we're going to see an improvement moving forward.
Really stoked about this match against.
So this is. I just wanted to kind of get some of the things that were that I don't even want to say are concerning, but some of the things that I'm not super excited about out the way before we get into some of the, the stuff that I think is really, really intriguing and I'm excited for. Let's back up here to the micro battles and everything else we got going on. So first off, we see that, you've got your siege tank like unit that is shooting off what looks to be like a big plasma cannon. And you can see its radius where it is going to fall. So that allows the opponent to, I'm assuming that the opponent can see this circle as well. And they'll be able to move out of the radius of that. Or if they stay in it, everything in that area is going to be damaged. You also, you've also got bushes here where I'm also going to make the assumption that these units cannot see these units because they're hiding in a bush. So unless you've got an observer-like unit or maybe a flying unit or another ground unit in here to physically see them, the units on the outside are not going to have vision. So that's cool. I like that they're using the terrain as part of the strategy. We'll see how that plays out in terms of balance and all that stuff, which just adds another element of strategy and adds more skill cap to the game, which I like to see. Once again, in terms of the color palette and things that are going on, it's hard to distinguish exactly what's going on over here. A lot of the units look the same. There's not a whole lot of personality between them. And that could, once again, just be it's pre-alpha and it's a mirror matchup. Let's continue to move forward here. This part is really, really cool. So this part is really nice to see. So if you take a look on the right-hand side here, let me take off my webcam so you can really see what's going on. If you take a look down here, you're going to see the player basically just right-click. So you see this little green and then red, green, red. That's them, A moving, stutter stepping. So they're clicking A and right-clicking for it to be red, and then they're just right-clicking for it to be green. So move and then A move. But what the thing that gets me excited is look how responsive these clicks are to the actual micro. I mean, it is instantaneous, and it is nice.
I mean, that's just kind of the way that it is, as it's with StarCraft. I'm not going to get excited about the fact that the stutter stepping is responsive. I guess it's good. It's better than it not being.
It is nice to see an RTS that understands high skill cap on a competitive scale. A lot of the RTSs that we've been seeing over the last 5 years, even a decade since StarCraft 2, feels very clunky. It just feels very unresponsive, and it feels as though the mechanics of the game kind of keep you at a ceiling. You only can do so much, and it's nice to see that you can really go nuts and outplay your opponent simply by skill and not necessarily by just A moving and praying for the best. Let's keep this going. This dropship here dropped some melee units and is attacking what I will call a siege tank for now. You'll also notice that there's there's another siege tank, and you'll notice when he shot off that plasma ball or cannon, whatever you want to call it, he actually hurt his own units. Look. So you see how much the health went down. So it looks like there is going to be friendly fire with AoE, which is nice to see as well, and can also create a lot more strategic play for both sides, really.
Did that really happen? Or was that just an attack on...
You'll also notice that there's another...
Yeah?
That plasma.
Yeah, it's a very small amount, but it is...
You'll also notice that there's another...
something. Yeah.
Well, this...
expansion build, and then I'll try to tech to higher tier units to defend whatever TLO throws at me.
So, I really like the terrain play. So that's going to be a big part of the strategy as well. This scout, which is actually called Scout, I'm going to move my webcam again. I like the fact that it can sense units. Now, it can't see the units yet because the units are still in the fog of war, but it can sense the units. So it knows if something is approaching, and unfortunately, the scout continues to move forward, and it meets its maker. But I do like that. I also like the fact that these ground units can actually run through the trees and attack a base, while bigger units cannot get through there without some sort of special ability or upgrade of some sort. The other thing that was cool and kind of meh for me to see is seeing this human race repair or build a structure with multiple workers. So just like in Warcraft, when you were playing the humans, you can speed run a structure by pulling a bunch of workers. Now, obviously, you're going to lose worker mining time. You know, it might even cost some extra, we'll call minerals, to kind of to rush this out. So there definitely is a risk and reward to doing that. Obviously, Monk here really needed to do this, or he would have lost this entire base essentially. But the game looks so much like Warcraft. To see this as well, I want to see a little bit more originality with the structure or the gameplay, so to speak. Obviously, they are going to draw inspiration from Warcraft and Star.
Realistically, will this go from pre-alpha to full-on esport in 6 months? No. I think this is still like a year away. Yeah, no, it would never, not a million years. I would say, you know, for what Jeff's talking about here, I don't disagree, but like everything is dripping in Blizzard's past titles, right? They're drawing on previous, and it's stuff that works and is, you know, they've dealt with balancing it in the past, and it is still in many regards relatively unique at the very least to Blizzard's titles. You know, not a lot of people chased after some of the mechanics that they had. So I don't know if I don't think I'm on the same page as Jeff entirely. I'm sure they're going to stretch out and try some new things, but I would suspect, given this is their first game as a new studio, they're going to lean heavily on what they know, and that's going to end up, especially for somebody like Jeff who's played a lot of Warcraft and StarCraft, it's going to end up feeling very samey.
StarCraft, and a lot of these developers created those games. It's their babies. So I understand that fully, and
yeah,
I want that. I want to have some StarCraft elements and some Warcraft elements. At the end of the day, it's an RTS genre. You're going to have units that look very similar, like these to Marines and those siege tanks and those medevacs, and you know, you're going to have a lot of those same things. But I want to see a little bit of Stormgate personality. And
I would say, in fairness to them, Jeff's already talked about something here that is a little bit more unique or different, and that is the ability of the smaller units to run through that wooded area, but larger units having to go around. That is definitely not something that you get in StarCraft or Warcraft.
I'm not, from what I've seen so far, outside of just like an artistic direction, mechanically speaking, I'm not really seeing any major originality. I do like the terrain stuff, but once again, it's pre-alpha. It's one race. We're getting a small snippet. I'm sure we're going to see a lot more, but I'm just being honest with what we're given and what we're seeing here. So the turret comes out, and then these two
That poor turret doesn't even have an animation cycle yet.
Vulcans come out, and they are big, heavy-duty units.
You did a lot of worker damage there, so I'm at a pretty bad economic disadvantage. I'm gonna have to try some really sneaky tactics, maybe getting an upgrade TLO isn't familiar with, perhaps maybe even luckily creepjacking him.
All right, so here we go. So he's dropping in. It looks like Blue is fighting a creep of some sort. I don't know what this pinkish orb will do. Maybe it's some kind of boost or buff. Maybe it gives vision. I don't know.
And that's a problem. They should probably have talked about that.
But it's, once again, it's very Warcraft-like. You don't have these things in StarCraft. Yeah. And once again, there's the placeholder chicken. So I like that he basically counter creeped TLO. So TLO is out here farming a little bit. Once again, I don't know what kind of benefits you get from destroying this stuff and picking up things. But it was nice to see Monk kind of go out there and attack TLO while TLO was out here on the minimap, exploring and I guess buffing up, maybe, even though there's no hero units.
Yeah, that's... I think that is the strangest thing that I saw them say, is that there's no hero units until you get to 2v2 or 3v3. I get, like... I'm curious as to why they're doing that exactly, but still leaving creeps in 1v1. I don't know if it's because they really just didn't want everyone to be like, this is literally just Warcraft, but you're still gonna get that anyway. So I don't know what that deal is about, but nevertheless, yeah, I liked the creep aspect of Warcraft. It was a reason to stop people from being overly turtle-ish. Made it more difficult, at the very least, to be like an insane turtle, because if you're turtling, you're giving up a lot of the map advantage of stronger hero units and gold and other items and whatnot for subsequent battles with your opponent. So I always appreciated it. I thought it added great variety to matches. So having that is nice. I like it. I'll love to hear eventually them talk about why they kept heroes out of 1v1 specifically.
And you'll notice when he kills the chicken, it says plus 50, plus 0. So maybe that just gives the minerals. Maybe that's like plus 50 minerals and then not plus 50 gas. That could very well be it. Don't know. So this right here is cool to see. You've got a drop ship, which it's obviously not called a drop ship, but you've got a drop ship here. You've got a siege tank kind of shooting off. Really nice micro there. Both sides were picking up units, and you'll also be able to see how many units these things can hold. So it looks like this can only hold 2 of the Vulcans, and then it looks like you can almost hold 8 of these marine-like characters.
Looking forward to hopefully dealing the finishing blow against Kevin here.
And you've got a healer back there. Oh, see this right here?
Looking forward
Medevac.
to hopefully dealing the finishing blow against Kevin here. I'll bring in full shot micro here. He has a more static mech army, I believe, and my buy unit should be able.
So that's really cool. So that must have been.
Yeah, so there was an upgrade that he clearly ended up getting where you can boost to charge away, and it seems like with those larger units, those Vulcans, you can charge through the trees to mow them down to open up space for both them and other larger units to go through.
Some sort of upgrade where they can just kind of rip through those trees, and 2 of them took down basically the whole path. And ultimately, they come in here and they win the game. The other thing that I noticed is the units are spread quite a bit. So there's quite a bit of a gap in between these Marine-like units and a lot of these.
I like this because it is very similar to Warcraft in that the units were a bit bigger, they were a bit more, they had a bit more breathing room, and so tracking things, clicking on things, managing both on your side and on your opponent's side for things on screen, it does make it a bit easier to not have it all so tightly packed.
These other units, which is a little bit concerning because I feel like a lot of these bases are very similar to Warcraft, where it feels very enclosed, and it's almost very intimate. It doesn't feel like it's one of those things where you're going to be getting 8 barracks, 4 factories, 2 Stargates, or 4 Stargates, or starports, I should say, if you're playing Terran. But like, it feels as though there isn't going to be a whole lot of structures, and maybe that's just because of the type of game and the display that they wanted to show here. I could be wrong. But if you have 100 units coming down here and they're all spread out by, half an inch apiece, well, that's not really half an inch, but you know what I'm saying? Like, there's a gap that is significant. It's going to be hard to have all these units sort of in the fight, especially when these chokeholds are so narrow. And it doesn't. Maybe you can, but it doesn't seem like you can break down all of these trees with using that ability. It seems like there's very specific areas where the forest is much more shallow, so that you can kind of rip through stuff. I don't know, but that's a bit concerning. So I don't know how big of an army. It's very clear that this is a slower paced RTS from what I'm seeing. Now, I'm not necessarily saying the game length is going to be much slower and you're going to be playing 30, 40, 50-minute games, but the pace of the game in terms of how fast your units are moving and how many units you're building at once, et cetera, it feels like it's very Warcraft-like. Which, to some is a absolute bonus and a benefit, and to others it might be interesting. And I'm more of the interesting.
Jeff and I are opposites in this regard. I always was a bigger fan of Warcraft, and he was a bigger fan of StarCraft. I ironically played more StarCraft than Warcraft, but I always liked Warcraft more. I always was kind of sad that Warcraft didn't have the same shine in the esports space as StarCraft did. I thought it had so much more variety in from match to match. It was a much more micro heavy game, regardless of what you were building, and the interplay on the map with trees and whatnot, and the destruction of certain map elements was at a greater scale, and map creeping with encampments and shops and heroes, and there was just it just held my attention a bit more. But certainly a bonus for me, for sure. And I mean, in fairness, if you think about it as well, is that StarCraft is the most recent. Warcraft hasn't been done since Frozen Throne. That style of RTS is kind of due, whereas StarCraft style is way more recent and severely played. And so if you were going to mimic one or the other, I would imagine that it would make more sense more often than not to lean in the direction of a Warcraft.
And then, yeah, once again, I spoke about this earlier. I still just feel like the design of the units are still just a little bit, in terms of like the palette, the color palette and stuff, it's just a little bit bland. It just kind of all blends together. But it's pre-alpha, and I know for a fact all of this stuff will be addressed and taken care of. They just wanted to present the world with what they have, and they're excited, and I'm excited too. Now, I went in with my expectations through the roof.
Knowing Jeff, I was really shocked that he went in with such high expectations, given what we had already heard and seen of the game to begin with. I know Jeff has got a lot riding on this to spark something in him from a content creator's perspective. So I think some of his hype comes from, not just the pedigree of the people making the game and needing to get something else to grind for a competitive game. He's been desperate for it, and it's it's the StarCraft, it's the Warcraft, it's everything at once. So his hype meter through the roof. But I mean, nothing that we had seen up to that point, or up to this point even, gave me any reason to just be like absolutely chomping at the bit. And this didn't move the needle much either. I don't expect to be particularly excited for another 6 months.
I mean, the team, the fact that like I'm just over StarCraft 2, I'm over Blizzard. I am unfairly putting Stormgate at such an expectation that it would be a small miracle for them to get to where I wanted to see the game for a first look. It's impossible. It just is. Do I wish they would have waited maybe 3 more months? I think so. I think
we agree there.
Months just to fine tune a few things, and the reason why I'm saying that is because it's their job to win over a lot of the casual audience. They've already won me over. The team itself, I'm just like, shut up and take my money and take my time. I'm in. Okay, you don't need to win me over. I'm already there. But it's in order for this game to have a really long legs, they need to find that middle ground.
And by really long legs, what he means is get off the ground at all.
Where they are appeasing the hardcore RTS, almost elitist players and fans, and then they need to also appease the casuals, the ones that just want to go in and have some fun. And of course, there's going to be a campaign. There's going to be cooperative stuff. There's going to be 2v2s and 3v3s, and they've talked about potentially a 4th race. So it's very ambitious what they're trying to do. And I have to say, this is the best looking RTS that we have seen since StarCraft 2 in terms of from a competitive standpoint, and a visual standpoint, and just the type of RTS that gets me going. A lot of the RTSs that come out, I don't even play or buy, and I'm a massive RTS fan, but I'm a massive Blizzard RTS fan, and the type of RTS that they make, and that's what Stormgate and Frost Giant, I should say, is doing here for us. So obviously, I have some slight, not concerns, but some slight minor gripes about the look of the game itself. It's not necessarily a look that I would have chosen personally. It's a little cartoony. It's Warcraft mixed with Dota. It's not as dark as, say, Dota. It's very, very vibrant and colorful. It's just a matter of, I guess, when the campaign comes out, we just got to fall in love with these characters. We got to fall in love with the story and the
I'm very interested in what the tone of the campaign is going to be like, given what we see with the visuals. I would say I agree with Jeff. I don't know if this is what I'd be going for personally. I think that if you're going to go for something that was some hybrid of Overwatch and Warcraft, that I would have perhaps gone with a for today's audience, I would like to have like a Warcraft 3 Frozen Throne situation, but a little grittier. Just a shade grittier. Think of how popular, a Dark Souls and the Dragon's Dogmas and all these games are. They've got like an edge to them. I don't need edgelord, but they have an edge to them. And that might have been nicer to see. Just a little bit more mature, but still, you could still keep this kind of the stylings, but perhaps the palette and the tone could have been a bit different.
The lore of Stormgate, and I think that will add to the love of the look of these characters and units and whatnot. So,
because you know what, when I think Stormgate, you know what kind of comes to my mind? I don't know why necessarily, but you know what comes to mind? The game Too Human. Does anyone remember the game Too Human? Visually, Too Human was like an edgier Fable, for all intents and purposes. And when I heard Stormgate for the first time, and I was thinking like Blizzard, visuals and stuff like that, that's what pops into my mind is Too Human. And like that kind of a visual styling.
Oh, this is just my honest opinion of the game, guys. I wanted to come on here and say, oh my God, this, my life, it will never be the same. This is so incredible. I can't wait. I still can't wait, but I have to be realistic.
Speaking of bells, hit it. Thank you, Richard.
Creators that because I'm excited and because it's my job to play and cast this, that I'm gonna try and convince you guys that this is the greatest thing that we have that we have seen, since sliced bread. That's not the case, but this is a very, very, very good start to what I'm hoping will be a very long life cycle for Stormgate. The dev team, the fact that they are listening to the community. I'm sure that there's somebody from Frost Giant that's going to listen to this video. They have their hand on the pulse here. They've got people like TLO, they've got Day 9, they've got our other StarCraft 2 creators working alongside them to give them feedback, to test things out. The pre-alpha actually comes out next month. I'm not sure if it's only going to be one race available, or there'll be 3 races or 2 races, if all of the units will be completed to some degree. And then it's just really a balancing and a feedback standpoint and fine-tuning things as time goes on. I believe in this studio. I believe in this game. I am still very, very excited. Sorry about that. I am still very, very excited.
That's random as shit.
About the game. But I will say my excitement, my expectation levels was through the roof. Now it's just below the roof, right? I had to just bring it.
My expectations are somewhere in the kitchen, where I'm hoping to find this game still being cooked in the oven for a good long while before they come out and show more of this shit off.
Down a peg, because it's unfair to me and it's unfair to the
well, we saw them basically do that, Brian. So the Vulcan units had what seemed to be an upgraded ability that give them a dash, and the dash also allows them to plow down the trees. If you look on the right hand side of the screen there, that's what that is coming from.
Team to think that we're going to get a StarCraft 2 or a Warcraft 3 full-blown experience on a pre-alpha gameplay reveal. It's just not feasible. So, what I will give this an honest rating out of 10 from a day one.
This is a 4.
One gameplay reveal. I'm going to give it a 7.5.
We're stretching here. We're stretching. This is a 4.
To 10. And once again, those points being deducted is simply from the fact that we're just not seeing an insane amount, and the stuff that we're seeing is a lot of the same stuff that we've seen in the past, but ultimately done better in the past, simply because this is pre-alpha. Now, when this thing gets fine-tuned and we see some changes here and some add-ons, this could easily get up to a 9. This could be the next 10 out of 10.
The trees are ugly as sin. I'm not worried about the visual aspect from like a fidelity point of view. It's a pre-alpha build. Like they don't even have all the units done yet. There will be a lot of changes to the visuals between now and the time the game is released. I'm not really worried about that at all. I mean, shit, at one point in this video, when he was done building the turret doesn't even have the animations done yet. You just see like a placeholder bullet coming out of it every so often. I mean, it's very, very pre-alpha, which is why, and I agree with Jeff, and I had said previously, they just needed to cook this more before they showed it off for the first time. Like, if you're going to do a mirror matchup, at least make sure all of the units are like, there's no placeholders, and you're just showing a mirror matchup.
But I think a 7.5 is something that they should pat their backs on in terms of like from a rating I'm giving them. Some other creators and fans may watch this and say this is our coming to Jesus moment, and this is a
Nobody is saying that. I don't think anyone's saying that. I certainly hope not.
10 out of 10. This is a 12 out of 10. And listen, if you feel that way, I'm not going to steal that from you. You know, it's warranted depending on how you're looking at it. But
this game is supposed to come out next year.
I think it would have translated a little bit better to the
2024
players, and people that are wanting to get into RTS for the first time. And
I haven't done that yet.
Just think that
Fox,
PC
I don't
presentation
think.
was not.
But I'll look into that.
So much better.
Anything like that you come across, I need to look into some of that. Let me know, and I'll definitely try and tackle that.
And I do believe it was Tim that was there. But one way or another, guys, I'm still very excited. This is very promising. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. Do you guys like the fact? There's going to be people out there that are going to love the fact. I know Adam does, that this is more Warcraft than it is.
Oh, Jeff, you know me so well. Stop it.
StarCraft has StarCraft elements for sure, but it's more Warcraft than StarCraft. Are you a bit disappointed? Would you have liked to have seen more of a StarCraft approach than a Warcraft approach? Do you guys agree with me that the color palette and the aesthetic of the game itself isn't what I was expecting? I mean, I was seeing some of the artwork and the design over the months, but to see the actual gameplay footage, it's like, whoa, okay, all right, this is bold. Yeah, just let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. I'm sure the folks over at Frost Giant Studios will be reading those comments, and will take the consensus into consideration moving forward. So, let it be vocal. Just understand, guys, that this is pre-alpha, okay? And pre-alpha is not alpha. Pre-alpha is not beta, right? This is pre-alpha. This is bare bones, and I think that it's very impressive what they have here as a pre-alpha. And I know that we nitpicked a little bit, but
also keep in mind that it's very rare for a company to show something and label it something and have it actually be that state. So like pre-alpha is more like it's really likely alpha. Pre-beta, it's really a fucking beta. Putting pre in front of shit and being a step behind the reality of your actual pipeline just signals to the people. It's like an extra cushion.
I think that that's probably what they want to hear. They want to hear these things. So I'm not just gonna turn a blind eye to the things that I think is like, okay. I'm gonna speak my mind. So there it is, guys. The moment that I can get my hands on this, hopefully, will be next month. I will release some footage if they allow it, because I'm sure in the beginning they may not allow anybody to stream it or do anything, or they may have approval things like, if you want to, they may ask you, okay, you know what, you can you can do a showcase on this or that and whatnot and kind of trickle it out. Because when things are like this in this form, you don't really want the entire world to think that this is the final product, right? So you got to be careful with how fast you are putting all this stuff out to the masses.
Yep.
Anyway, I'm going to stop talking because my last video was like 43 minutes and this is at 36.
It's shorter, technically. Where's this other video that he did?
I'm going to shut up now. Hit the like button, guys, for Stormgate. Go into the description below. Follow them on social media. Sign up for the pre-alpha. And make sure that you all put this game on the...
Like, did he do it on, like... Oh. Oh, he recorded it, looked at it, it's too long, and then this one was basically the same length. That's hilarious. Yeah. Interesting. Interesting. Semi-related question, 2023 has been a lackluster year with games in general. Really? You feel 2023 has been a lackluster game? Jesus Christ, you got high standards. Have you seen the list of games this year? This is arguably the best gaming year since like 2004. Do you think COVID is still having its effect with current products? Think it'll be done by 2024? I mean, I don't know what to tell you if you think 2023's been slow. I mean, this is a fucking bonkers year across the board. I mean, we're in a year where we had 2 games launch on the same day and both Metacritic above 90. Like we're having a year. Now, it's fair to say that the games that are coming out aren't necessarily always the games that an individual might want to see or play, but to speak more about, now, that's not to say that, every game that comes out is fucking incredible or anything, but we've had a lot of really, really good shit, and the back half of this year has got some fucking heat coming. That being said, I mean, I like the general quality of things like PC ports and whatnot, that's been kind of like an off again, on again relationship with PC games, depending upon the popularity of console gaming and the proliferation of people or how prolific PC gaming growth is in any given cycle. So we're in the middle of kind of a low-end PC cycle. Parts have been hard to come by. It's been very challenging. Consoles are very powerful right now. I know people don't think they are. They are incredibly powerful right now for a very good price. Hard to come by, but still selling more than ever before. So you're going to get situations where ports to PC are going to be on the poor side now because of it. They're targeting consoles. They're targeting the bigger piece of the pie, and oftentimes a lot of these ports aren't being done by the main studio. They're being done by some third-party studio that they're being farmed out to. And so unless it's a studio that has a great track record, it's fairly safe to say that it is it's up in the air as to whether or not they're going to be good. And as you can see, most of them have been not good. I would say, like, to answer the COVID thing, we are getting, like, a lot of the games coming out this year, or like the really big ones. So games with a lot of scope, or games that are from teams that are very small. A lot of them, a lot of them are not. I wouldn't say the majority, but I would say the last real rounds of the COVID affected games are popping right now. Diablo 4, for example, which has been very well received, doing big numbers, ironically made 666 million in like their first fucking 3 days. You know, that was an almost entirely, from a production standpoint, not the conceptualization phase, etc. A lot of the production, that was all COVID and work from home. So, you know, that says a lot in and of itself, right? But we're getting to a point now where this is basically anything that comes out by the second half of this year. Anything after that is just unlikely to be like it's going to get harder and harder for anyone to make it an excuse that COVID is the reason why their game is launching and it's ass. It's probably just poor management at that point, really. But yeah, I would certainly say that 2023 though in general this year is hitting hard with a lot of very high profile, very critically well received games, and we're not even halfway into the year yet. Yeah, and if you're somebody that is an indie game, somebody that dips their toes into the indie game waters, or somebody that plays a lot of indie games have been, players of indie games have been eaten well. Holy shit. They have been eaten well, and there's a lot more great ones coming up. Indie games or indie developers, there are several indie developers now that are in like this. It was going to sound negative, but I don't mean it to be negative. Like a purgatory, some weird, awkward middle no man's land ground of not quite being a major developer, but not really being two dudes or three people in a basement making a game. They're like, if you were going to put on a scale, they're like A tier games, not AAA, but A's, and the studios are big enough to produce that. I would say, for example, that oh my god. I've got Frost Giant stuck in my head, but the other giant that makes Hades. They're in that category, and then the Ori team, we got a lot of these really great Supergiant, thank you. We got a lot of these really great larger scale indie developers now putting out really high quality games, and so that's some it's you just got to convince people to go play them. Nevertheless, very good stuff. Yeah, very good year in general. 2023 is really great. 2024 is looking like it's also got some promise to be very good. But we're looking at a year where we're getting like Horizon, Forbidden West, fucking Tears of the Kingdom, God of War, fucking Starfield. Like the list of like really enormous game, Diablo 4. Just monstrous games. All this year, and pretty much all of them. Street Fighter 6, fucking Mortal Kombat 1. I mean, we're eating right now. We're out here eating good. Am I going to do Cyberpunk 2077 when the DLC launches? If I recall correctly, there isn't really anything of note in September. Well, there's a good chance. I'm going to wait and see if they release a version that has like the base game plus that So, and it's patched together all nice and sexy, instead of having to like own the first one, buy the DLC, and then do that. Like I'm gonna wait to see. Yeah, Liza P also looks like it could be a pretty big hit. Hard to forget, it's the worst name in the history of gaming, possibly, second only to the Kingdom Hearts, Master of Colons. But yeah, just a crazy. Yeah, I think 2023 is a huge year in games. So much and so much in many months that are loaded up that reviewers are fucked. I mean, you can't review them all. Oh, is there Fox? Okay. Yeah, so there you have it. But to answer your question, yeah, I'll probably do that in at some point later on when it's out. I would like to revisit Cyberpunk and see what their vision, after they've retooled it so much, what their vision of that game actually ends up being, because I think that's going to be a much more representative of what they were hoping to put out. When it did originally come out, it'd be nice to see what they pulled off with that game. Guys, I have to head out. It is basketball time. I have to go and watch and see if the Nuggets can bring home the championship. And so I'm going to go do that. Hit the follow button or the subscribe button and hit the bell icon so that you don't miss any more streams here if you want to keep coming back. Of course, not just reactionary stuff like this, but also my Let's Plays are going to be coming up on this channel more frequently. Final Fantasy 16 is looking like it may in fact be the first one of those. That's later this month. And sometimes we do other content like Warzone days and things like that. They may also start to become a more frequent thing over here on the channel. If you have other things you want me to do for content here, like if you want me to do more reaction and breakdowns of like gaming content or other stuff, let me know. Join the Discord, send me a message. I'll consider any and all of that kind of stuff. For sure, and we can be degenerate reactionary streamers if we need to be, and keep it to gaming content or do other stuff as well. Until I see you likely tomorrow, whether it be here or on Twitch, thank you very much. Have yourself a good morning, afternoon, or evening. Stay safe. Have a good one. As always, good luck. Have lies of push and pee. I still don't know what the fuck that means.